prosecution outlined how accounting practices of comic suckers did not.
What kind of likeness is that? If they were great artists, they'll be in a museum.
Evidence today may signal at least one.
You fucking fodder for cartoonists now?
And welcome back to another episode of Gutter Boys, episode 51. Gutter Boys is a small press comics podcast that focuses on the ins and the outs and the highs and lows of small press comics. I am your host, Cam, here with my co-host, JB. And today, on the back end of the show, we've got very special guest, Noah Van Sciver. If you're listening to this show, you know who Noah is. He doesn't need another introduction. But before that, of course, we're just going to kind of talk about some comic news that's come across our desks.
First off, we have Silver Sprocket announced that former Oni editor Ari Yarwood is joining. Yarwood has been working with Silver Sprocket since January 2021. Congrats to Silver Sprocket and Ari. Hopefully that will work out for both teams. I don't know.
Ari and Avi.
Ari and Avi, yes.
Also, speaking of Silver Sprocket and previous guests of the show, they just announced that Good Boy Magazine #1 is coming out. And I believe it comes out in August. Yeah, August 2021. It's solicited right now. You can pre-order it from your shop. Looks like it's got Benji Nate, Michael Sweater, Alex Crocus, Ashley Robin Franklin, Sam Grinberg, Flower Alligator, Dave Mercier, might have mispronounced that one, Bastian Najdik, Steve Thusen, and more. And alongside Catboy and Montana Diaries, you can find this title and order it from your local shop now. It looks like it's got a really nice cover price of $9.99, which is, in my opinion, great for an anthology. $10, find something you might like. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, 112 pages. Looks like they're full color. So I'll be getting a copy. Looks like it actually comes out to comic shops on August 4th. So yeah, looking forward to that. The cover looks great. Benji's got great style. And yeah, make sure to pick up Good Boy.
Trying to steal our Gutter Boys magazine lightning. Damn. Okay. Speaking of upcoming releases, we have Harley Quinn #3. Would you get the Hugo Strange vaccine? So I guess DC has officially made it so that there is a real coronavirus in the DC expanded universe. So that's something.
Well, you remember a few months back in Batman Black and White, J.H. Williams did the Batman masking up. So I guess it was only a matter of time.
Connected.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before it made its way into the DC universe. But
yeah, and that's called world building.
Yes, that's how you do it, folks. When we say that there is excellent world building in comics, that's not what we're talking about, but it is an example of world building nonetheless.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about this book is DC has solicited it, and it literally is Harley Quinn fighting Gotham bad guy Hugo Strange because him and his cronies are trying to distribute a bootleg coronavirus vaccine that is just fucking people up. So Harley's trying to, I guess, stop this from happening. But it is really fucking funny that in DC, there's like a black market COVID vaccine and it's just fucking people up. It's just like, you have nothing else to write about.
Yeah. I knew that people with just fried brains before the pandemic couldn't write. But now that we have, a global pandemic still going on, about 2 years in now. And it's good to see that that's affecting all the good brains really well.
Yeah, it looks like the writer here, I've never heard of them, Stephanie Phillips. So
Stephanie Phillips, get a new job.
Yeah, I know you probably want to, make sure that the readers can relate to your work, but bootleg COVID vaccines aren't it.
Yeah, also the art is pretty bad.
Who is the artist on this? Riley Rossmo?
I don't know who that is. Yeah. It looks bad. I don't care.
Are you looking at the cover or the interior pages?
I mean, we're just talking about this to make fun of it. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone
You
that
know
would be
who
interested in
asked me
this.
for Harley Quinn comics? My 6-year-old niece.
Oh, there you go.
And she can't even read, so...
I think that's the perfect demographic for a book like this. A 6-year-old toddler who cannot read.
6-year-old
That makes
toddler.
sense. All right, we got some other news here. Manga fans rejoice. Demon Slayer really did outsell the entire comic industry in 2020.
Totally. So this is pretty crazy because the comic sales reported here would have been just from Diamond, but with the new distributors, I'm not exactly sure how they're going to play into the mix. But according to the sales figures that have been, projected for the direct-to-market industry, Volume 1 of Demon Slayer has outsold the entire North American comic market. And what I mean by that is if you added every single comic that was sold in a comic shop via Diamond, this one volume of manga in North America outsold it. So, I mean, of course, manga is very popular, but it is kind of funny that it seems to be ignored by like your typical big two type shop. They don't acknowledge that manga really is, the top selling comic. It's just really strange that it hasn't made its way into, the direct to market landscape, in my opinion. I mean, of course, some comic shops do have manga, but every comic shop that I've been in, I feel like they push the other shit before the manga. Like it doesn't seem like a priority. I could be going to the wrong shops, but like every shop that I've been to, Barnes and Noble has a bigger manga section than those comic shops.
Yeah, if your shop doesn't have a big titty anime girl statue for sale, that's not the right shop you want to go to.
Who's the artist that did the big titty anime girl statue with like milk shooting out of her nipples and it
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like famous, like, and like the milk is swirling all around them. It's like a life-size sculpture. I forgot who that was. If you know who that was, let us know, because I know I'm not making that shit up.
Yeah, I know the statue you're referring to. That is that the guy that worked with Kanye West?
Is it Murakami?
It might be Murakami.
Damn. Okay, well, Murakami's out there, man.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Murakami. Anyway. All right, well, I think that's it for news. We have some shout-outs here that we want to go over. First, we want to shout out King of Snails.
Nails.
Snails would be better. First, we want to shout out Jonathan McBurney, aka Instagram user King of Nails. He is an Australian cartoonist, illustrator, and comic creator.
And a gallery curator, it looks like. I think that's what they wrote a note, and they mentioned that they were curating a gallery as well. So
yeah, that makes sense. If you check out their work, it's really amazing.
Yeah, really incredible stuff. Like literally got a brick of mini comics, probably 20 plus. Haven't made my way through all of them yet, but definitely recommend getting some from Jonathan. You can find them on Instagram at king_of_nails. Thanks so much for sending us your work, dude. Really, really strong work.
Yeah, them Aussies can draw.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want to send us comics, we'll be happy to read them and plug you on our social media as well as talk about it on the show. Just DM our account and get our addresses from us. We're always looking forward to checking out new stuff. And this statue, after Googling big titty anime statue, I was able to pull up a Gawker article for which giant titted anime statue was Kanye West obsessed with.
Case closed.
Yeah, so...
Also, we want to go ahead and announce the Rust Belt Review Anthology, Volume 2 by Sean Knickerbocker. It is a quarterly comics lit magazine featuring serialized short-form comics from some of the most exciting cartoonists in the small press scene today. Volume 2 pre-sales are now open. Order your copy of Volume 2 by June 14th and receive a kick-ass holofoil sticker. You can order your copy of Rust Belt Review today by going to rustbeltreview.org. Enter in the promo code GUTTER to receive $2 off your order. Again, that website is rustbeltreview.org, promo code GUTTER. So we want to thank Sean Knickerbocker for giving us money.
Yeah, for being a patron and advertising on the show. And I feel like we don't push that a lot, but if you want to advertise on our show, like you hear in the middle of the show, beginning, wherever we put them, you can sign up for our Patreon. It's $12 a month. You get 4 ad reads, try to keep it affordable for the cartoonists. Or you can just, throw us $5 for extra episodes, 10 for extra episodes and zines. That's patreon.com/gutterboys.
Yeah, we broke the 600 mark.
Yeah, we crossed $600, crossed 100 patrons. It's only looking up from here. So, keep telling your friends about it. We really do appreciate, you all, giving us money. I know that we joke about it a lot on here, but, we genuinely do appreciate the support of the fans and anybody that, chooses to financially support us. And even if you don't, thank you anyways if you're listening.
Yeah. The direct market in the big two hate Gutter Boys.
Yeah, we're pretty polarizing. It seems like the more traction we get, the more haters we get. And you know who taught us about that? Our old friend Ed.
What's up, Ed?
Yeah.
Oh,
damn.
Congrats to Ed for selling 50,000 copies of his recent comic Red Room.
Yes, congratulations, Ed.
Congrats on going to the well-established well of multiple variant covers to pad out those numbers. Very nice.
And before any of you kayfabe stands want to come for us, just realize that we've seen your pics of your 25 copies of Red Room that you purchased. The numbers are padded.
Some of you got more than that too, which is wild. I don't know what you're going to do with 60 copies of Red Room, but...
Quick tip for the speculators out there, scarcity actually increases value. So you're going to see those things in dollar bins in a couple years, folks. But
no, that's never happened in the history of comics.
Never. It doesn't happen here.
No.
At the end of the day, Fantagraphics can continue to pay the bills this month. So thank you, Mr. Pisker.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be joined by our guest, Noah Van Sciver, so stick around.
We'll be right back.
Bastard Galaxia is a free-to-read webcomic available at bastardgalaxia.com. As a space pirate, Bastard Galaxia had everything going for him. A tough crew, a cool name, and a skull for a face. But when these attributes propel him to the top of the world of supervillainy, he quickly finds himself out of his depth. Comedy, action, and social awkwardness abound, as Galaxia must balance being equally evil and marketable without letting his crew know that he's sold out. If you fondly remember the cartoons of your childhood that were ultimately just thinly veiled toy ads, such as Masters of the Universe, Ninja Turtles, or Transformers, or if you just want to check out some free comics, go to bastardgalaxia.com to enter a world where good and evil are meaningless and action figure sales are god. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at bastardgalaxia, and follow the creators Steve Gregson at Robotics Steve and Matt Simmons at Sheriff Freak for more comics, art, and zines.
Soggy Landing.
Soggy Landing is a tropical island destination full of magic and adventure.
Soggy Landing.
Soggy Landing's parlors serve the grog of your dreams.
So soggy, so strong.
Soggy Landing's Board of Tourism warns, wizards not welcome. Any wizards will be summarily executed.
No warlocks either.
Soggy Landing's Punch and Judy show you the part when Miss Piggy and Kermit fuck.
What in the world?
Soggy Landing is a webcomic that you can read at studygroupcomics.com.
Come to Soggy Landing. There's plenty to do in the rain.
This program is brought to you in part by a generous donation of $12 by the Michael Sweater Foundation for the Arts. At Michael Sweater Foundation for the Arts, we are committed to supporting stuff that rocks. Michael Sweater encourages you to also sign up for the Gutter Boys Patreon and to buy the latest issue of Strangers, Bubbles, and other zines about comics. Also, please make more zines about comics and comics history. It doesn't even have to be good. Also, Silver Sprocket rules. Back from the break, we're joined by Noah Van Sciver from Columbia, South Carolina. He's a pretty well-known cartoonist and also has a YouTube show currently that you should check out. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. We're just, getting back into the swing of things. Mm-hmm. Am I getting my names mixed up? Because for some reason I thought you were based out of Chicago.
No, I never lived in Chicago. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and then I moved down here to the South, Columbia, South Carolina. So it's kind of confusing. But
okay, what brought you to the South?
My wife just got a job down here, so
hell yeah,
nice.
It really is like that meme that you guys had of the wife with the dog on the back. It's like a
yeah.
I really related to that. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, same here. Like my girlfriend has like the corporate management job, and I just fuck off all day. And it hasn't come to the point where she's had to like pick up the slack. But I know that if it ever came down to it, she could.
Yeah.
The clock is ticking, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Once this unemployment runs out.
Yeah, it's feast or famine. This cartooning life. So I mean, I do pretty well for a bit, and then like 2020 was a terrible year for me. I barely made any money, but it's picking up again. So yeah, you can never tell with this kind of career.
Well, and you've been doing comics for what, probably 15 years at this point?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And I mean, God, you put out multiple books a year, it seems. So you're pretty like prolific and constantly working on something. You just, there's a short film being made about comic I just ordered from you. I think it was an older story though. Was it the Lizard?
Yeah. The Lizard Laughed.
This is the first time you've been adapted into any kind of like other media, is that correct?
Yeah. And it was a long time coming. Like the guy, Alan Cordell, who's going to make the film, he worked for that. There was like a website called like Super Deluxe. Do you guys remember that? It was like a web. Yeah. So he's from that. And he wrote to me a couple of years ago about getting the rights to that short story to adapt into a film because he wants to see how that goes. And then if it works out pretty well, he wants to work on like a Saint Cole movie possibly or something like that. So we were just like, all right, let's see how we like working together. So he's been adapting that comic into a film for the past couple of years. And now he's like really ready to, like adapting as far as like writing it and stuff like that, preparing it. And now he's ready to shoot it. And he's got a cast together and stuff. And they're going to do it in New Mexico. So it's pretty great. I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Wild.
Yeah, are you going to go check out the set or be on location with them?
No, I don't think so. I haven't been back to New Mexico. Like, that story is it's based in a little bit of my life. It was kind of like a revenge fantasy that I had against my father when I was a teenager and stuff. So, like, I haven't been back to New Mexico since all that stuff in my real life happened. So I don't have any desire. Like, Arizona, too, is like another place I have no desire to go back to.
Yeah, I read a lot of your work, prior to you coming on in the past couple of days. And, I'd kind of forgotten how much of your stories take place, like, in New Mexico and the Southwest. So, well, it seems anyways, from an outsider's perspective and as a reader, you're always working on something. Do you have any kind of like daily routine that you have set for yourself?
I just, I think I'm a workaholic or something. I wake up at like 5:45 in the morning and I immediately come into my office and start drawing. So I'll make some coffee, and my wife wakes up around 8. So I have a few hours to just kind of work in silence. And then she goes to work, and then I just keep working until she comes home from work. And we have like dinner together and stuff, and I can kind of tear myself away. But even sometimes it's like after we have dinner, I'll go sit down and work on coloring a page. So I don't know why. I just like what I do, and I'm like always ready to do it.
In your comics before, you've always, a lot of autobio stuff in addition to a lot of fiction. You have drawn and written about, working a day job. Are you still working a day job, or have you finally made it to where, you're sustaining off cartooning?
Yeah, I haven't worked a day job in 6 years.
Ooh.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
That's the move.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. So every year that passes, I'm like, hell yeah, I got away with it again, like another year.
Yeah.
That is definitely the right attitude to have. Yeah.
But that's the key to it, though, is like you have to be really prolific and you have to be really strategic about what you do as a cartoonist in order to make it into a career, because it can be done. Yeah. But it's very tricky.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, because it's something that I've, kind of wondered. You put out, multiple books a year, and I'm not talking about like, single floppy issues. You'll put out like a quote unquote floppy, but you'll also put out 2 or 3 books with like spines in some years. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that like working at such a breakneck pace, do you feel like that is necessary to not have to work a day job, or do you feel like that's just part of you being a workaholic?
It's part of it of being a workaholic. Like if I could accomplish more if I was like, thinking about like what's in the cultural zeitgeist and trying to design a graphic novel around that. Right. Something that would like get into like New York Times bestseller mode or something like that. But I just can't work like that. So I think I just like to put out a lot of stuff, but it's usually like I'll put out one book of like new material, and then the other stuff will usually be like collections of older comics or something that I'm bringing together for the first time. So, I'm mostly just like working on like one story a year, and then as a side project putting like, even right now I'm like putting together a collection for Fantagraphics of all the comics. I call them like the Mustache Noah stories from like Blammo or from like Now, like any anthologies that I did like a comic for.
Okay, yeah.
So that's like a little side project. But then in the same year, because this is going to come out next year, I'll have the Joseph Smith graphic novel come out.
And that's what you spent the bulk of last year working on, right? Your Joseph Smith novel?
Oh, yeah.
I've been
definitely
following along on Instagram. So, I feel like our listeners of the show are probably going to be familiar with your work and, your upbringing, in a Mormon household. So do you feel like, the telling of this Joseph Smith story, do you feel like this is something that you had to do? Like, because if I'm not mistaken, you're kind of separated from the faith now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So did you just feel like you had to do this, like, because it was like the story that you were raised with, and what drove you to make this comic?
Well, that's what it was. I mean, I just felt like I needed to figure that stuff out, and I wanted to be sure that it wasn't true. Like the whole thing about growing up in that church is that you're supposed to rely on like the burning of the bosom. Like you read the Book of Mormon and you feel this is true. Like you feel it in your chest. And that's how you know it's true. And I never had that experience because I was born into it. So as an adult, when I turned 30 years old, I started really reflecting more on that. Like, was that a faith that was actually true and that maybe I belonged in or something? And like, maybe I should go back and explore that and see if I feel the burning in the bosom or whatever, So like that became like my project. Like I'm going to investigate the origins of that church because I only knew sort of the surface story that they tell you. And, and then I'd seen like the episode of South Park or whatever. So, so then like for the next 6 years or something, I just read a lot of books about Joseph Smith. And like I visited all the historic sites around the country. And I just put together it was just like an investigation that was very personal, that was happening on the side. And I finished that investigation. I put it together as a book. And I came to a conclusion about it, And yeah, I'm just not a believer. I don't believe it. I don't believe any of it.
Yeah.
But see, I felt bad because when I lived in Vermont, when I was doing like a fellowship at the Center for Cartoon Studies, I found out, and this was like the beginning of me like trying to investigate all this stuff. I found out that like his birth site was only a few miles away from the school, like his cabin and stuff. So I dragged like one of the students out there with me because I didn't drive back then. So this poor student had to like go on this like tour of the site with like some Mormon elder, like giving us a tour, and then like at the end, and the tour like ends at like their like little community like center where they try and give you a Book of Mormon and convince you to come to the church and stuff. So it's just like super awkward. It's like, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to see this space, And then when I flew out to Illinois a couple of years ago to be like, oh, hey, John Porcelino, like, let's get together. And I flew out to where he lives in Illinois, and I had him drive me to Nauvoo.
Got him again.
Settlement. Yeah. And so then John Porcelino had to like walk around all this like historic Mormon stuff with me and like go through all this, and it was I felt pretty bad about it, but I think he had an okay time. I don't know. He didn't put it in the issue of King Cat, so maybe he didn't have a good time.
Not worth King Cat, I guess.
Yeah.
No.
So we have a friend that was also raised Mormon, but has distanced himself from the faith. He actually makes comics. His name's Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Drug Dogs.
Yeah, he actually will get pushback on his comics, critiquing the Mormon faith from the Mormon community and even from his own parents. And I guess they like talk about, the work with their friends and, like, oh, he has to stop this. Do you get any kind of pushback from the community on your work? Because I mean, you're operating at what I'd imagine would be a much larger scale as far as like visibility on your work.
It's going to be crazy. I think they haven't seen the book yet. What's funny is like that I did a book called One Dirty Tree, which touched on growing up in the church and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make the church appear in like a good light or anything, but it was just like my own experiences. And the church gave me an award for that book. So
what?
Yeah, I have like it's really funny. I have it like in my studio. It's just like the Mormon, what's it called? Mormon Letters Award or something like that for that book. So I don't know. I think it'll probably be a different.
Did you submit it for nomination, or did they just like catch wind of it?
No, they know about it. I mean, I'm an artist that a lot of Latter-day Saints follow. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this new book will get another award.
Yeah. Maybe it will. I don't know, because I didn't.
Two-time, baby.
So
Two-time.
Yeah, I didn't make a book that like is like reverential of the church at all. But I didn't do one that was like that demonized it. I just told it like straight, like here's what happened.
Right.
So because I just want like anybody to be able to read it and come to their own conclusion the way that I had to.
Yeah. So do you have plans for like where you're going to release this book? Are you going with Fantagraphics like you normally do? Or well, are you going to pitch it to, a bigger publisher?
Oh, it's coming out from Abrams Comic Arts.
Nice. Okay. Hell yeah. I feel like that's going to be a hit for you in the sense of, library readership and hopefully, schools. I feel like something that tells the story of that could maybe break into that like historical market, which is something that you've kind of flirted with. You kind of dabble on and off with like historical comics. Is that just something that you're really into? Just like, older stuff from like the 1800s, 1700s, stuff like that?
Yeah, I am really interested in that. There was something when I was younger, I was like really fascinated with the idea that like where I was living had a whole bunch of people who lived there before. Mm-hmm. And I remember because this is like in Colorado, I lived in Denver, and a lot of like old stuff in Denver was still there. Like there was like horse hitching posts on the sidewalk and stuff like that. I just got really fascinated by that and started looking in on it. Like I didn't go to college, but I did take like a history class in a community college by my house, just because there was like something really interesting about history to me. So I don't know. That just kind of went into my comics for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about it. I like history, so yeah. Yeah,
no, totally. And it's like, it's funny because, you'll do work, like, because you also were a child in the 90s. I was as well, and so was JB. So I'll catch a lot of the references in your work, and they hit harder with me just because I grew up at the same time. Mm-hmm. And, you'll write about loving Jurassic Park, and I'm like, well, how the fuck did Abraham Lincoln come into play here?
But it's like Abraham Lincoln, but it's like I didn't do like a Civil War book. I did Abraham Lincoln's Depression. So
right,
it's such a particular slice of Abraham Lincoln. It's like not heroic at all. It's just like, here is Lincoln, how he battled through depression.
Yeah, little known bit of history regarding the expanded cinematic Jurassic World universe is depress right. Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it'll be weird, like in the future when we're all dead and they are collecting graphic novelists. As like the complete works of Noah Van Sciver, and it'll be like the hypo, and then right after that will be like My Hot Date, and it's just like super jarring.
You actually just reissued My Hot Date along with the first 5. I think it's the first 5 issues in that Blamo book. Is that right? With Kilgore?
Yeah, and then like a whole bunch of rotten, awful comics that were like in mini comics I had been self-publishing back then. So that'll be really interesting to see what people will think about that stuff.
Is this actually Kilgore's last hurrah? Is that, I think that was kind of the build around it.
I think it is. Yeah, I think because Dan Stafford, he's a father of 2. He's an English teacher in school, like for a school, and I think he's just too busy to keep it up the way that it should be kept up. So I think that was kind of the last hurrah. Yeah.
Damn. So it's kind of fitting, I guess, that you, I feel like your Blamo book was like the anchor of that Kickstarter. I'm excited to get it, but is it weird for you to revisit that stuff? I mean, because the solicitation of it calls them like, it calls attention to the fact that it's not up to par with your current work. So it was kind of, self-depreciating and funny, but yeah, is it weird for you to reissue that work? 'Cause I mean, you've been in this game 15 years. And one thing that I think that is interesting about your work is when you read it chronologically, you can see your growth as a cartoonist. So, I mean, is that like a weird thing to, kind of look back on and put together?
Yeah, it was really depressing. And, it's like nostalgic, but it's also a little scary because you're like, what are people going to, drawing comics in 2007 was a lot different than like drawing comics in like 2021.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm like, how much of this stuff, am I going to get canceled from any of this? Like, is any of this like really horrible? I don't know. So, I mean, I just kind of had to put it out there. Like, this is for fans only. And, and then like, I just like wrote like a note section in the back of it, basically explaining everything, So yeah, it's weird. It's like, who wrote this? Like I was 22 years old when I did some of those comics. So, yeah, really sad.
Did you initially plan on, like, burying those comics forever and Dan pushed you to do the book, or did you want to do it?
Well, it was like a constant conversation because, like, I always would get messages from people that were looking for those issues because they were, like, trying to complete that run. And I had no plans on reprinting any of that stuff. I don't know. I just felt like, well, there's enough people that want it. As long as we explain, like, this is pretty bad stuff. I don't know. I just give them what they want. And
I mean, I don't know. It comes down to, do you like money?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it could be a mistake. I don't know. It's too early to tell. We'll
The
see
answer
what
is
people
yes.
say about it. Yeah, I do like money. Yeah, that's for sure.
We were talking a little bit earlier about St. Cole being adapted. So how did that kind of work out?
You mean the lizard left?
Sorry, the lizard left. Yes.
Oh yeah, well he just reached out to me and asked me if he could get the rights to it, and I talked to Fantagraphics about it, Eric Reynolds, just to see like what his opinion about like what kind of money I should get for it and stuff like that, and we came up with a deal and did it, and then it took him a couple of years, so like that's how it works. It's like you get the option, I guess is what it's called, to work on a screenplay based off a comic for like an amount of time. So then that amount of time kept running out. Mm-hmm. So I would get like a little bit more money in the mail, and it was great.
Yeah, it's like, take your time, please.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a short film. It's super low budget, so it wasn't like a ton of money or anything. It was just like more, it's more just like kind of a fun thing to do, like to just see how somebody else is going to reinterpret your work, And
does that renewal and that deal in general, does that involve residuals, or is that like a separate deal that you have to plan out, or how does that usually work?
No, I don't think I get any more. So
it's just like a flat rate and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And we'll see how it goes.
And I guess from there, it's just going to be working out contract stuff. So
yeah.
Like, are you scared? Like, St. Cole to me, assuming that this first adaptation goes well, like St. Cole is one of the first comics I read by you. That's actually like a longer work as well. So with something that long, are you more inclined to feel like you should be a part of the process? Like, as that's your quote unquote like baby, that's your project. Like, how do you feel as a creator, people taking your work? Because, some people are really hands on with it as far as being adapted. Some people are really hands off. Like, do you have a preference on, how you'll be able to work within the adaptation?
I'm pretty hands-on. I mean, I will just let somebody take it and do their own version of it. And if it's great, I'm going to love them. And if it's shit, I'm going to hate them. And it's like totally, that whole thing is like dependent on how this short film works out. Like, we'll see how it goes. I mean, that's another reason why it's like, a short film is like, how do you even see that stuff? Like, you finish it, and then what does he do? He puts it on Vimeo or something like that? Like, I don't know what you do.
There's like a couple like HBO short films I noticed on HBO Max, but yeah, it's weird because nobody really ever looks for short films because they're not marketable or anything like that. If anything, it's like, film festival stuff or, YouTube Vimeo stuff, like you said. Not to discourage it. It's cool to hear. No. I mean, it's totally just an experiment, and I don't have any like high hopes of it leading to some kind of bright future because I don't even, my work being turned into a film or whatever that's not even a concern of mine. I don't seek that out. But like, if there was a Fonte Bukowski Netflix thing or whatever, I'd want to be involved in that because I think that character is probably closer to my heart than anything else. So I wouldn't want that fucked up, So I do want to ask about that because you do make a lot of autobio comics, but then you have a character like Fonte Bukowski who, as knowledgeable as he is about the woes of small press, like it's got to be a parallel to yourself as well. So do you fictionalize, like when you're doing an autobio comic, you just did that book Boring, for an example, which didn't seem like, too crazy to where you'd have to compensate with any kind of, liberties with the storytelling. But when you're making a comic that's autobio, are you staying, faithful to how it went down, or are you kind of sprucing it up here and there?
I spruce it up, like, for comedic effect. Some of it's real, some of it's not. Like, there's a lot of autobio comics that are just like a joke. They're like sort of based on something, but then you just kind of take it and spin off from there. Mm-hmm. Like Boring isn't necessarily a true story, but it's kind of like how my days were during quarantine.
Right.
Or like slightly before quarantine. So, yeah, and that was just like, let me capture what my day-to-day is like, just so in the future, if anything changes, I'll remember how good I had it or something, And that is, I'm having a son, so that's the end of that chapter of my life. Like, it's going to be different from here on out,
Yeah, congratulations on that. I didn't know if I should bring that up on the air, but I saw your story post, and congratulations on,
Thanks.
Upcoming parenthood, I suppose. So one thing I did want to ask you as well was, in your household, you talk about it in One Dirty Tree. There was a lot of comics, and, your brother's involved in comics, albeit the completely opposite end of the spectrum. So how did you gravitate away from superhero comics into like pretty much like I look at your stuff and I feel like you're one of the cartoonists keeping like the underground spirit alive, especially in 2021. Comics are getting more experimental, and I feel like you're tied to the classic nature of what makes a comic, and I mean that in the best way possible. But how did you avoid getting stuck in the superhero world when that's where you were? I would assume that's the majority of the material that was around.
Well, it's like I kind of put that stuff aside. Like I read superhero comics when I was a kid, but then when I became a teenager, I just stopped reading that stuff and I became a skater. And then I wanted to be a painter and stuff. And so I just I dropped out of that whole scene. And then I like discovered alternative comics when I was 20 years old. And then that became like, oh, wow, I can actually tell stories and stuff in comics that don't have to be the superhero comics that I was so familiar with. Like I didn't know about like Fantagraphics or any of that stuff. And so that just became my focus. Like I had never had any interest in becoming a superhero artist. Like I just didn't think that stuff was cool after a certain point, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So what were you reading that got you back into it? Like you said, you discovered like a Fantagraphics book. Was it like Hate and 8-Ball and like The Usual Suspects?
No, what happened was I rented, just totally blind, I rented the documentary Crumb from a Blockbuster, and I watched that, and I didn't know anything about him and stuff, and it just like blew my mind that there was this whole underground comics thing that happened. So I started looking more into that, and I went to like a Mile High Comics that was like next to my apartment, and I was like, hey, do you guys have any like R. Crumb comics? And the guy pulled out a volume of the complete Crumb from behind the counter. It was like totally hidden. It was weird. It's like you're just like selling it, I guess, but it was like behind the counter.
It's like dirty magazines.
Yeah, it's so weird. So I bought that and then just like ate it up, and I saw that it was like Fantagraphics Books published it. So then I looked them up, and I just was like turned on to all this other stuff. It was crazy. It was like the most amazing time. Like it was like discovering punk rock or something as a suburban kid. And so, I remember I had like a little art show, and this guy was like, he saw my work and he was like, this looks like underground comics. Like, have you ever read that book, Rebel Visions? And it was like a Fantagraphics book that came out that was about underground comics. And he gave me a copy of it, and I just devoured that book. And that was like the beginning of my education, you know, my comics education. So I was just like on a totally different path. Like there was never any chance for me to have been deluded enough to think I could work in mainstream comics, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of where I'm at too. It's just like I realize I'll never be able to work there, so I have no desire to even try.
No, and what is even? I mean, who cares? Like that. Fuck that stuff anyway. Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Ramon, we don't give a fuck. Well, we mentioned a lot of different cities and states. So, what was going on there? Why were you moving constantly?
Well, I was born in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I lived there until my parents split, and my dad ran off to New Mexico. So my mom was originally from Arizona, so she moved whatever kids were still with her, and I'm one of the youngest, so I was.
Okay.
There's 9 kids in my family.
Oh,
Yeah, she moved us to Arizona, and then I would go down to New Mexico to visit my dad like twice a year. And then we were in Arizona, and then she got a job in Colorado eventually, and then we moved up to Colorado. So I lived up there, and then I got a fellowship at CCS, so then I finally left Colorado, went to Vermont. Then from Vermont, I moved to Columbus, Ohio, because I heard that's where like all the alternative cartoonists were going to be living. And I was there and met my wife, and then she moved me down here to the South. So I've been all over. Yeah,
I'm guessing you're packing light.
That's right.
I'm just thinking about those moves and just it's making me go insane a little.
A lot of moves.
Yeah.
How was your experience in Columbus? I feel like you were doing some work in the paper. I remember seeing you post, but like as far as like the connection to the cartooning scene, do you feel like there was a good scene there? Do you feel like it was overrated?
Man, I had such a great group of friends there. It was that, you know, my wife felt really bad taking me away from there because I never have like a good solid. It's really hard as an adult to get like a group of friends. I don't know. I just can't do it. And so I had one there, and like Tom Spurgeon was still alive, and I lived with him at first for a while there when I first moved to Columbus, and it was just great, man. We just drink beers and talk about comics.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. Yeah, it was awesome. I liked Columbus a lot. And I would go to the Billy Ireland and like look through old comic strips all the time and stuff. It's a great city. Definitely.
Yeah, I love visiting. I love CXC.
Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
It's a really good show. This is completely off topic. I was talking to a friend of the show, Josh Pettinger, and I was trying to find a strip to send him that I could have sworn you did. Did you do a strip about tabling and Santoro coming up to you and saying like,
I did.
Okay. I was looking for that, and I was just like, God, man, it was one of the funniest fucking things.
I think about reposting all the time, but I know that strip really hurt his feelings.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Even though it's absolutely true. He fucking did that. He was just like, dude, you're like my favorite cartoonist and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, really? Wow. Because I was kind of under the impression that like Frank Santoro was like a tastemaker of comics, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, if he likes my work, that must mean I'm doing something right. This is great. And then he like followed me on Instagram. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's following me. And then it was like, seriously, like the next week he unfollowed me. And I was like, what? What the hell? And I did a comic about it, and I posted it, and then it just wound up getting shared all over the place. And he wrote me like privately and was like, hey man, I'm really sorry about that. You know what? Fuck it, man. Let's just be friends, man. Let's just be friends. And I was like, okay. So it was weird. And then I took down the comic. And then he fucking unfriended me again. So it's like, so I was just like, all right, whatever. I stopped. I didn't even take it personally after that. Like, I'm just like, whatever. That's just how he is.
Yeah, he's wild. He has like 8 different Instagram accounts, and he just goes wild on all his burners. It's really entertaining. I don't know if Frank listens. I talk to him sometimes, and it's all love over here, Frank.
I mean, I like him. I'm a fan of his comics and all that stuff, and like him liking my work obviously meant a lot. So I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah, we've talked positively about him in his school for the most part.
Yeah, but we shoot it straight here on Gutter Boys, and that strip was really fucking funny. I was trying to find it the other day.
I can send it to you. I have it. I still have it on my computer.
Yeah, you should just repost it. Fuck it.
You should. You definitely should. Yes.
And do another an update where he unfollowed you again.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, part 2.
Exactly. Well, I thought it was really funny because like I was influenced by. Did you ever see like Sammy Harkham's collection of comics that he did?
Yeah, are you talking about like the what was that book called? Everything Together or whatever?
Yeah. He did like a comic about I think where like it's just like cartoonists and cars and they're just like talking shit.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And then he did like another one about like talking to Frank Santoro's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like kind of inspired by that. Like I'm going to draw like about a conversation with a cartoonist. And that was like what got me interested in doing that strip, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
I feel you're not a real cartoonist until you have a major, figurehead follow and unfollow you.
It happens like one of those all the time. It happens to me all the time. Who else? Sammy Harkham like does that to me all the time. Ed Piskor follows me, unfollows me all the time. I'm like, why do you guys do this? Is this something that...
It's like, if anything, just go and look at the page, because if you're like, just go look at the posts. Like, why are you playing this game? It's so weird.
Well, I don't unfollow anybody. Like, if I follow you, I'm ride or die. I'm just going to fucking stick around. So when I notice people that do that, I'm like, what? What's wrong with them? Like, that's like shit.
Noah, a man of integrity.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Love to see it.
I'll only unfollow you if like I see you, if I catch you talking shit somewhere. I'm like, all right, I'll unfollow you. But like, that's it. That's what it takes.
Another project that you're working on, you've got your own YouTube channel now, and I believe, every Sunday you have a conversation, Sunday mornings, if I'm not mistaken?
I was doing those like live stream ones where I would just like throw the link out and invite anybody who just happens to be watching to just like come in and start talking.
Yeah, was that disastrous? I saw you were doing that.
It's a funny idea to just be like, anybody's watching, let's have a chat, man. And it worked out pretty well. But like, I didn't take the streams down. I just privated them because YouTube was fucking with my channel for having too many live streams. They don't like, I don't know, they're kind of a weird thing. Like, I think they like stopped promoting it or something, or like stopped recommending it. So like, it just felt like my channel was kind of halted. I need to do like more short videos so my channel grows. Cause all I really like to do is just have conversations on there.
Right. Yeah. So is that are you planning on keeping that going for a while? Like what's your...
Oh yeah. I have like 4 guests. I have all these people that like have just agreed to do one. So it seems to be going pretty well. And like, these are like pretty high profile guests that I just asked like as like a fuck it kind of thing. Like, let's just see what they say. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be good. I'm going to keep it going because I really like it. Like, it's just really fun to do. And I think, all this stuff is like needed, like your podcast and like all the comics channels and stuff like that. Like all this stuff is needed because not enough people are even talking about what we do, we're interested in. So I don't know. Like, I like putting it out there. I like talking to artists that like nobody else is talking about. Like, people put out books and like nobody even writes about them. So,
yeah, it's like it's such a small scene that the crumbs are very limited. So anything that we can, do as a community to put, ourselves and, our peers on a pedestal, I think is, good news. So I think it's cool that you're doing that. And I think it's cool that, you don't have a plan on stopping it, because I think the conversations we have on here are great. And I feel like, you're having pretty much like, there are these conversations that you have with other creators and cartoonists to where if you're in the scene, you appreciate them so much more, because it's very isolating to be a cartoonist. Like you said, it's hard to find that group of friends. And a lot of the times we're working in isolation and we can't talk with our partners about this stuff. We can't talk about our normal friends with this stuff. So I think it's very important that we have a different avenues to have these conversations. So
thanks, man. I just want to say, I think that it's been really good for people who want to be cartoonists too. Like, I've gotten so many great emails and even mail from people who are struggling cartoonists themselves, and they get a lot out of just hearing two working cartoonists have a conversation very casually. There's a lot of wisdom that's just kind of thrown out there casually that I'm like, damn, that's great,
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was going to say that there seems to be a kind of shift in small press comics right now, with things like more distros popping up and more fanzines popping up, like Bubbles and Strangers. And I think even, as much as we maybe don't like Ed, the reality is that cartoonist kayfabe, whether directly or indirectly, has drawn more attention to small press. Mm-hmm. To sort of a larger audience, maybe people that probably wouldn't have bothered reading this stuff otherwise.
That's called the kayfabe effect,
right?
By the way.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's talking about that. The stuff that they show off is just great, because where else are you going to know that any of this stuff exists? It's just amazing. I'm so happy about all that.
Yeah,
and they do good work. So
yeah, and it definitely feels like now more people are having kind of consistent access to these books and zines and floppies that 5 years ago nobody would have paid attention to or known about.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean also selfishly, I had to start my YouTube channel because last year I had the complete Fonte Bukowski book come out, and it was the day that all the bookstores shut down.
Fuck.
And I just felt and also on top of that, I knew going into this nobody's gonna write about this book, nobody's gonna write about these comics. It's just I better try and talk about my own work and gather up people who would like it in one place and just have a relationship with them, because I just feel I'm not contributing comics that are good for the culture or anything. They're just shit stories, people being mean to each other and all this stuff. What kind of good press am I going to get from this? I better be my own press,
Yeah, it's totally DIY, and I think that's one thing that is great about you is you'll do a book that's, published with great distribution, and then you also will do a fucking floppy that you're selling for, $10 and you're hand mailing and addressing all those envelopes. I really do appreciate that, you've got your foot in both the DIY world as well as the elite cartoonist world of being published.
I'm not in the, okay, I see what you mean. The elite cartoonist world.
Netflix money, baby.
Yeah, right. I just feel super stoked to even talk to you guys. I don't feel I feel like an outsider all the time. Still, I just feel like an outsider, and I don't know. You'll get a few listens on this or whatever, and that's the way it'll go. I don't know. I've never been a hip cartoonist, so I was just
Well, you've done everything at Fantagraphics. Is that just because you're comfortable doing books there? Even you look at even Clowes. Clowes jumped over to Drawn and Quarterly for a while. Are you just loyal to your publisher? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Fantagraphics is awesome though, man.
Yeah, they're amazing as far as the work they put out and everything like that. And
they let you do whatever you want. You can pitch them. If they've worked with you before and you have a good relationship with them, they'll just let you do what you want. I could write something and be I'm going to do a book that's just nothing but drawings of I don't know, hands or something. And they would put it on Fantagraphics Underground, at least. They're just really supportive people. So, it's like a family at this point. I really like them a lot.
Hell yeah.
I read somewhere that you were not formally trained as an artist, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. So how did you get yourself into drawing regularly and then kind of growing and developing as an artist with your own voice?
Well, I was my family was all about that. My mother was an art student, so she always kind of imposed creativity on us and stuff. So we're always drawing. My father actually just sent me a file of my childhood drawings that he had kept, and it was amazing to look through that stuff. So I always drew. I don't know. I just always was doing it. I think that's like probably a common answer for like any cartoonist. You just never stopped.
Right, yeah. Do you have any interest into going into any kind of like program or school involving, art or fine art or comics?
Nah, not at this point.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah, going to school for cartooning is kind of weird.
It is, yes, it is.
You really don't need... I mean, you just read some comics and just go off your own taste. And if you can, internalize different things from reading a lot of comics, and you can figure it out. I mean, you really don't need a comics education. I don't know.
Well, I do want to ask, talking about comics education, one of my favorite stories of yours is still from Blamo 9, and it's the story where you were at the Center for Cartoon Studies, and you made fun of the weeb and got in trouble. Did that actually happen?
Dude, I'm coloring that story right now. That's why I'm laughing. Like, I'm coloring it because I'm going to include it in this book that I'm working on for Fantagraphics. So, how do I always answer this? Because people ask me this, like, that didn't happen, but everything in it is true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, none of those things necessarily happened, but everything in it was true about my time there. It was 2015. So that was like the beginning of that, of like this new world of like safe spaces and stuff that I just didn't know anything about. So I thought
you were going to say it's the new world of white people drawing like Japanese people.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a big thing too. But it was just like, but when I got there, all of a sudden I was very conscious of I was made conscious of the fact that like, you have to be careful. Like, don't hurt people's feelings and stuff like that. Cause I just didn't, I don't know. So like, I was very shocked by it at first. And that comic was like my, about me like realizing that, and and here we are now, all these years later and stuff. But yeah, so it was a very, I had to kind of keep to myself when I was there. It was very, very dramatic being there.
Yeah, I think you conveyed that well in the comics. So that's. But it's good. It's a great story. It's cool that you're collecting that, because I think it's just like a really funny, well-rounded story.
Oh man, I did like a diary. Like the Comics Journal does diary comics.
Yeah,
I did some diary comics for them when I was at the school. And I remember going to Cab in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn show, and Dan Clowes was a guest. And I was talking to him, and he was like, your diary comics made me never want to visit that school.
And that school just wants Clowes to visit. Like, that's the end game.
They would love it.
High praise.
Yeah. I wrecked it. Probably not anymore. I don't think they would really care about having Clowes there, but at one time, yeah.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and get into listener questions. As always, if you want to participate with the show and send questions to our guest or us, follow us online at Gutter Boys Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We usually put like a Ask Me Anything box thing up on our stories, or if you just want to DM us or email us at gutterboyspodcast@gmail.com. Actually, we've said this a lot recently, but Noah broke the record for the most submitted questions.
Hey, there you go.
Previously held by previous champions were Caroline Cash, and I think Ben Sears came in and knocked Caroline off, and now Noah just came in and just shit on both of them. So, but yeah. We also have a Discord. If you want an invite to that, we accept questions in there. But let's just go ahead and get this started. On Instagram, user Benjamin C. Montrell asked 2 questions: Pop-Tarts or toaster strudel, and have any unique or strange collections that are not comics?
I don't eat Pop-Tarts or toaster strudels. And collections that are not comics. No, not really. I mean, let me think. I'm looking around my room now.
Scanning.
Yeah. No, not really. I mean, look, does original art count? Probably not, huh? Because
I guess it's like adjacent. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't collect anything weird.
Yeah. I guess with all the moves, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's very smart. Yeah. All right. Instagram user Midnight Mastermind asked, what does Noah's research process look like for his historical comics?
Well, for the one I just finished, it was travel, a lot of photography, reading a whole bunch of biographies and cross-referencing them, watching online documentaries, and recreate, like the church had its like a whole bunch of movies that they made. I watched all those to see like what their take on all that stuff was. Just a lot of note taking and a lot of sketching and stuff. If you're on my Patreon, you've seen like I posted a whole bunch of my process stuff on there recently. It's a ton of work.
Nice. So when you take a trip for a book research, are you writing this all off on your taxes?
Hell yes, I am.
Hell yeah.
That's so funny. I was just talking to John Porcelino on the phone today, and that's all we were talking about was like taxes and like how, like, can you write that off? Or like, what do you do if you get somebody buys original art? Like, is that taxable? Like, I was just asking him all these questions. He's been around. He knows it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can write off practically anything, really.
Yeah. You're just probably going to get audited. I heard if you try to write off funny things, you're like 90% likely to get audited or something like that. So, but
keep
as long
those
as you
receipts.
got, as long as you got the receipts, you're good.
Yeah.
So,
I'm definitely going to be doing that when I work on my monthly history of strip clubs book. So, gonna have all my ends covered there.
Alrighty. Next question came from friend of the show, Alejandra Gutierrez. Alejandra asked, "Ask Noah why he left me at the orphanage all those years ago."
Such a shame.
Some kind of must be a joke.
We don't do jokes on the Gutter Boys. Sorry. Instagram user Detron Austin asked, ask him how much he loved doing Comic Fest at Starfest.
Those were miserable comic shows in Denver. Starfest was like a Star Trek festival.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Comic Fest was this show. It was like a mainstream show, but very tiny. And they would kind of give like the local cartoonists a table in the hallway. So I would sit there like in the hallway where people were just walking by. And they brought out, I remember one year I went, because they could only like afford to have like a couple guests, like actual mainstream guests. So One year it was like Brian Wood and somebody who worked on a comic called like Xanadu or something like that. I can't remember. It was really weird.
That sounds familiar.
Whenever Brian Wood would like walk by my table, I'd be like, "Brian," and I thought it was really funny. And he just got super fucking annoyed. He'd like try to like walk around me like that. Brian.
So I'm assuming you didn't sell well at these shows, given the clientele.
God, and that's the show where. One time I let John Porcelino sit with me at my desk and try to sell King Cat. And this guy came over, and John had like really, really bad OCD. He was like a germaphobe. This guy came over with like, 7-inch long fingernails. Like he was not trimming his fingernails on one hand. And they were all chunky and yellow. And he was flipping through all of John's comics with his like long fingernails and touching everything. And John was just like losing his mind. Just like, no.
It's a tax write-off if he gives it to him, okay? So
And then like the guy didn't even buy it. Because that's what happens. Like people come to your table and they like look through your stuff. And they try to make small talk. And you're just hoping they buy your comic. And then they're always just like, good stuff. And then they walk away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The nod, the wave, and goodbye.
And then when they walk back by your table later in the day, they like avoid eye contact.
Or they'll do the finger guns.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, I remember you. We talked.
Yeah, it's humiliating.
I love the whole, I only have a set amount of money. I'm going to make a lap and I'll come back.
Yeah.
That's the best. Every show. Several times.
Yeah.
They do that.
Totally.
And it's like
you don't have to tell me this. I'd rather you not.
Venmo on my phone.
Yeah. In fact, I'd rather you pay that way. Who does cash?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next question came from Instagram user Dance Teams Baker. Worst part about working at Panera, and do you recommend it? My location is hiring.
I worked at Panera Bread for a long time, and I worked the 5:45 shift, so I would wake up really early, walk through the snow and the pitch black, go open the store, and then set up the line. And then make like egg sandwiches until 2:00. It was good because like I had the guys that all worked there, they were all in their 30s. Like we were all losers. So we just joked around a lot and like had a good time. But I remember I had direct deposit. So I'd like look in my phone and look at my bank and be like, I didn't get paid this week. And then the boss would be like, yes, you did. Be like,
oh shit.
So I got like no money at all. I remember per week. Towards the end there, I started only working there part time and I would get like $250 a week. So eventually I was just like, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit anymore. But I don't know. It's okay. It's an okay job.
Well, I can confidently say in this case, my dad is a huge fan of your work. He loves Panera Bread.
Oh, yeah. I still like it.
He doesn't read comics, but...
I worked at Panera Bread, and then before that, I worked at Einstein Brothers Bagels, which was, I guess,
okay.
More Western. And I worked there for long. I worked at the corporate concept store, so we had all the corporate guys hanging around all the time, and that was pretty irritating.
Oh, I thought you meant like you got to try out all the new recipes when you said
They were,
concept store.
It was just they were always in there like some guy in a suit who's like never made a sandwich would like come over and try and give me advice on how to do my job better. It was like really annoying like that. I always worked terrible jobs. I never had a job that made any real money. I had like no skills. It's just I don't know. Like I'm a loser, honestly. Like I there's no way. Like if this didn't work out, I would just go back and work at Starbucks or something. I have no other options. No career path ahead of me.
Yeah, well,
you're
to be honest, you're a cartoonist on a cartoonist podcast, so
that's true. Look at me now.
We're all very much in the same kind of pool.
Yeah,
of loserdom.
We're all gonna work together after this,
right? Yeah. You guys just want to franchise a Panera?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Kickstart it.
There you go.
Oh, man. I worked at... Do you guys know what Qdoba is?
Oh, yeah.
I worked at Qdoba for a bit, and at the end of the shift, it was like I'd be closing, and we'd have to like lock the doors and then like break down all the equipment, and you'd be pouring chemicals on the grill, and like this hot chemical steam would just be shooting in your face. You just
really
good. Moving all these like refrigerators and ovens out of the way against the wall and like mopping up all the grease. It's so miserable.
Yeah, this is what comics is like, folks. You draw and then you do this.
Pretty fire queso, though, if I must say.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll still eat a Qdoba every once in a while.
Okay. Yuletide Lady from Instagram asked, favorite fast food and favorite memory with Simon, not the sandwich incident.
I'm assuming Simon Hanselman.
Yeah, Simon Hanselman.
Okay.
One time he gave me what was the sandwich incident? I got sick. I was always getting sick from Simon because Simon... I don't know. He's probably better now, but maybe he was just filthy or something. Like, I was always... One time what happened was at a cake in Chicago, I was tabling next to him. We were talking and he was like on pills or something and he was drinking a Red Bull. And he was like, "Here, you can have some of my Red Bull." And I was like, "Okay." And I drank some of it. And then he was like, "Oh, I have such a cold right now. I shouldn't be here." I was like, "What?" And then it was like a day later. Like I'm like, "Oh, I feel like a little tickle in my throat." I'm like, "Oh, damn it."
Yeah.
So my favorite fast food is I don't know, probably maybe Burger King. Burger King's pretty good. Or Taco
It's underrated.
Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taco Bell, you get more bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Taco Bell's always brought up on this show, especially now everybody's happy that they brought the potatoes back. It's a theme of recent episodes.
We really need to get that sponsorship going.
Yeah, we really do. I think we could actually do well with the Taco Bell promo code.
Oh, are you
we
kidding
got
me?
Dick Pill promo codes, and that didn't do too well.
Right. Who knew? Who knew that Dick Pills wouldn't sell on a small
Who knew
press
that comic
podcast?
fans that don't get laid
Yeah, right. Yeah.
didn't need boner pills?
Yeah, big dick boss Chris Ware definitely needs dick pills.
Alrighty, let's see. Next question came from, here you go. Nate Garcia, friend of the show, wrote in with his question that he asked everybody. Noah, please be honest. What did you have for breakfast today?
Oh, man. I had actually, you're going to think this is weird. I had a blueberry bagel with hummus on it and a glass of V8 juice. Low sodium V8.
That is a very chaotic breakfast.
Yeah. Is that like I'm getting rid of shit, or is that just something that you normally make?
I just didn't feel like making anything more elaborate.
Yeah.
But blueberry.
Yeah, it's like a sweet and savory thing going on, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's actually really good. Because I used to do that at Panera Bread or at Einstein Brothers. I would always have like a blueberry bagel with some kind of like savory cream cheese or like hummus on it.
Okay, I'll have to try that, I guess.
Might try it out, yeah. I can see it working. It just doesn't sound good in theory, but ultimately I can see it working.
Yeah, I guess that could be good if it didn't sound like complete trash. Yeah. Friend of the show, Instagram user Alex Null, he asked, what's your happiest memory in comics and your saddest?
Oh, well, saddest is like I've lost a lot of cartoonist friends.
Right.
Being in here, a lot of people that I've known over the past 15 years have passed away. It's actually surprising how many. But happiest was I think I've told this before, but like I wanted the Ignatz Award so bad, and I kept losing it and stuff. And then the last time I went to SBX, it was like the Fantagraphics anniversary party, and so all the Fantagraphics artists were there, and Daniel Clowes is like one of my heroes in comics, so he was there, and I was sitting in the front row next to him, and then they called out my name. I won the Ignatz Award, and I went up to get it. And I was totally shocked. And then I went back and sat down next to Dan Clowes and Jack Cohen, like took my picture. and I looked so happy. Like I've never seen myself look that happy before, you know. So I think that was probably the most memorable experience in comics for me.
That's a pretty solid memory.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like, you know, the godfather of alternative comics, at least today anyway, and, you know, arguably, and, you know, you got a nice award out of it.
Yeah, holding the brick.
Yeah.
Holding the brick on a piece of wood.
I know, and now that brick just like sits next to my window. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, prop up the window with it.
Nobody believes it's an award.
I always like, you know, like it's really funny. Like I get, you know, of course, why it's a brick mounted to a piece of wood, you know, with the crazy and Ignatz thing, but it's just like, you know, in small press, like that's our Eisner. And can you imagine like, you know, somebody coming over your house and you just like the most like prestigious thing you have is just a brick mounted to a piece of wood?
Yeah, it's
like when you just break it down into literal, like, no, of course it means way more than that, but it's just really funny that like this is the ultimate prize. It's a fucking brick for us.
Man, one time I was having one of the Fantagraphics dinners after SPX, and the Hernandez brothers were there, and it was like some year that like they just like swept the Ignatz Awards. They like won all these Ignatzes, and they didn't even take them. And we were we were at dinner, and I think like Jack Cohen or somebody was like, "Hey, did you guys get your Ignatz Awards? Like, are you gonna take them back or whatever?" And Gilbert Hernandez is like, "Some fucking bricks? I'm gonna take some fucking bricks on the plane? Like what?"
Right though. Gilbert's like, that'll look really good next to my lifetime Eisner.
Yeah. They must be like at the point where awards mean nothing. It's like you've been around the industry so long. It's like, you know the score. You don't really care about that kind of stuff.
Totally. Alrighty. Instagram user Paul Along the Watchtower asked, would like to know more about his coloring process. I feel like you talk about this often on your Instagram.
Everybody wants to know about it. All it is like multiple layers. Like I do like a layer of like watercolor, a layer of ink wash, and some colored pencils, and then I just put them all together in Photoshop. And then I'll do like a layer of just flat computer coloring underneath that just to boost everything up.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all. Yeah.
So I assumed it was something like that. Yeah. I feel like if you make art, you could tell what, you know, it's different layers and everything, but it looks really cool. The end product looks amazing in my opinion.
Thanks.
So you're taking multiple kind of printouts of the same drawing or lightboxing?
Lightbox.
Yeah.
I scan in all these. What I'll do is usually take the comic page to a photocopier and photocopy it down so it'll fit on my little lightbox. And then I'll take some like cardstock and do different layers of ink wash on the lightbox over the drawing, and then scan those in and put them all together in Photoshop.
And then you'll add like texture with like, is it crayon or colored pencil? It looks like.
Yeah, I'll put a colored pencil in there sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So it's a nice little merging of analog and digital.
Exactly. Totally. I don't like too much digital, and I don't like clean coloring because my artwork is messy. So I like to have coloring that kind of suits the drawing style.
Yeah, that makes sense. Instagram user Mason the Princess Bride asked, about how many drafts will you go through before settling on a final page layout or dialogue?
I don't do any of that. I just do like direct one, like one go at it for the most part. Like for the like I'm working on a new issue of Blammo like right now on my desk, and like I have like a couple notes about like what I'm gonna do, but I just go directly to the page. I don't really think about that stuff at all.
Do you clean it up in post or just kind of leave?
Yeah, just
nice.
Scan it in.
Hell yeah. Alrighty. Instagram user Swamp Alex, ask him what are his plans for White Boy Summer. You can say it was me if you want. Well, Alex, we always say who it is. Fake fan, bro.
White Boy Summer.
Yeah, so what are your plans for White Boy Summer?
I'm going to go to Edisto Beach with my pregnant wife, and we're going to wear some straw hats. And down there's some crabs that climb up trees, so that's pretty fun to observe. And I don't know. White Boy Summer.
Yeah.
I don't really have any plan. I mean,
I think Tom Hanks's kid is the one who's behind this. Like the one who's always saying the N-word. Yeah, he said this is going to be the summer of white people, and it's White Boy Summer.
Why would he say that? Why?
This question would be better if we have Ed Piskor on the show eventually. Famously loving the N-word.
Ed Piskor?
Yeah, Ed Piskor.
He says the N-word?
Well, in Hip Hop Family Tree Volume 1, in the foreword, if you look, it says it's for all the blank down from day one. But here's the thing. I'll send you a picture after we finish this. But so here's the thing. He used like the traditional like symbols, you know, when you're like cartooning and you like, it's like a star and a asterisk or whatever. Okay. But you could tell exactly what letters he was going for.
Yeah.
With the symbols he used for. So the first page of Hip Hop Family Tree is just Ed saying, this is all for all the real N-words.
Oh, Ed, what are you doing, man?
Yes, White Boy Summer is in full effect, baby.
It's been White Boy career, man. No, but
oh, fuck.
Yeah. You got this Sean Knickerbocker.
Instagram user Sean Knickerbocker asked, what comic are you most proud of and why?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I guess Blammo number 10 was a really solid issue of Blammo. That's probably my favorite comic book that I've ever done. But The Complete Fonte Bukowski is like my favorite graphic novel that I've ever put together. And that's because like I had no planning. Like there was no story thought out on any of that stuff. I just like started with a dumb joke making fun of like the kinds of guys that I dealt with like in the zine world. And then I just kept going for fucking 450 pages or whatever. So like, and it somehow worked out. So I think that's like my greatest triumph is that book.
Nice. Friend of the show, Shrelp, because I'm not going to read your Instagram username, Shrelp, asked, who are Noah's inspirations and how does he come up with ideas for his comics?
Inspirations, Daniel Clowes is a big hero of mine. Fuck, I don't know. It changes all the time. Like right now I'm reading Bill Griffith. I don't know if you guys like him at all.
Yeah, I'm waiting. He's doing a Nancy or a Bushmiller book soon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm reading this book that he did called Lost and Found. Yeah, that's what it's called, Lost and Found. It's like a collection of his stuff from like the 1969 to 2003.
Is it a lot of zippy stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of zippy stuff, but then like Mr. Toad and like like random stories that he did for like Arcade or Weirdo. Like he just put it all together in one big book.
Yeah,
it's really great. So I've been getting into that. I don't really have like a lot of like artists that I'm like a fanboy of though. And what was the other part of the question?
How do you come up with ideas for your comics?
Oh, man. Isn't that like the most cliched?
Totally. Shrelp, in his defense, is a 15-year-old kid over in India, though. So
making fun of a 15-year-old Indian, not a good look.
No, he's awesome.
Yeah, we have a Discord, and Shrelp's in there, and I had to make, once he told everybody his age, I had to make an over 18 room where we can post like nudity in comics.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man. How do I come up with my ideas, though? Is it's like, do you guys do this? Like, you just have like a notebook where you just kind of like drawing random shit that comes to mind or whatever. Like, I don't know. There's no good answer to that. Like, it's just like, just basically making fun of other people or whatever inspires stories.
Yeah, it's
trolling
a mixture
is your
of
main source of ideas.
That's right.
Yeah, for me, it's a mixture of like, just like drawing shit, and then I'll keep if I have like a story idea, I'll write like a paragraph in the iPhone Notes app, and then I'll go look at that when I don't have anything to draw or whatever.
Well, like right now, like on my desk, I'm drawing a comic called The Floating Head with Bad Breath, and it's just about a guy who's like tortured by this like floating head that keeps coming into his bedroom at night and just breathing on him. So I don't know where that comes from, but...
All right. Instagram user Vinyl Santi asked, what motivated him to do that YouTube show he's doing besides the pandemic? We already covered this.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question, though. Instagram user stupid_sketchbook asked, what are your thoughts on Philip Guston? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Do you think he has to offer cartoonists work? I don't really know what he's getting at there, but yeah.
I like his work. I like his drawings and paintings. Does he have to offer people work? What is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might have,
dead.
the person might have mistyped something here.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we don't know. Sorry, stupid sketchbook. Try again next time, though.
Yeah.
Friend of the show and Aussie extraordinaire Bad Teeth Comics asked, will the next biography comic by NVS presents a history of ECW and why the hell not? That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is good. Somebody should do that. That would be great.
Yeah. Are you familiar with ECW?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, Noah, if you did that book...
You'd sell a lot.
It would sell. It would do numbers, and also like you would have a whole new demographic of people being into your work.
And the floating head with bad breath would be at your table.
I feel
so
like that's I think that's kind of a Box Brown book.
Speak of the devil. Like, Box Brown wrote in, and
Box sent in a question asking who. So because, there you go.
Oh, he doesn't even know who I am after all these years.
No more fake friends, 2021, baby.
Yeah. What the hell?
Alrighty. Next question came from Instagram user Blue Skies Comic. When are we getting the sword-wielding cat strips?
Never. I did all that stuff. I don't have anything else to do with it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I didn't even invent that character, so I feel kind of bad. Like I did like a residency in France with a bunch of other cartoonists, and somebody else invented that character as like something we could collaborate on, and I just took that character and used it. So,
damn.
Sorry about that.
Were they French?
Modern day Stan Lee over here.
Were they French? I don't know. I can't remember who it
Holy
was.
shit.
Like it was this thing where like we were all sitting around a big table and we were supposed to all draw an original character and then hang them up on this board, and then we were gonna choose which character to use, and then we were all gonna work on a graphic novel about this one character. So that's what we did. And but one of the characters was that cat, and I just liked drawing that cat so much that when I came back to America, I just kept drawing it. So
well, listeners, if you're still sticking with us, Stan Lee in his 80s could remember every name of every person he stole from, and Noah at 37 cannot be bothered.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Friend of the show, Instagram user, MS Harkness. What's up, MS?
What's up?
She asked, congrats on the baby. What is the one white trash, growing up poor thing you do that you can't let go from childhood? I use my inking pens until they are fully dry and unusable for making any kind of line. Poor kid solidarity.
Yeah. Well, I bite my nails. That's something I'm always working on trying to stop.
Same here, dude.
Well, you could try getting into smoking cigarettes.
Poor kid thing. I'm pretty bad about if there's any food in the house. Like I eat it before anybody else. Like my wife will get like some brownies or something, and then she'll go to work and she'll come home, they'll all be gone.
Is that a poor kid thing?
Yes,
that sounds more like a fat kid thing.
No, here's why though. Because I grew up poor but in a big family. So like if any kind of treat was introduced into the house, you had to get as much of it as you possibly could before everybody else did.
Yes. Okay.
It's funny you bring that up. I was rereading the Jinko Jeans book, and you had a strip in there about how the Tasty Cake truck driver threw you a box and you hid it in your floor from your siblings.
That's right, I did. You had to do that, man, because everybody else would get it all. So even if you weren't hungry, just
eating to eat it all.
Put a bunch of Oreos in your mouth.
Alrighty. On our Discord, Instagram user Drew B. Hall asked, what was his favorite and least favorite part of living in Columbus? I love seeing the little Columbus references, Upper Cup, Half Price Books, etc., and Blammo 8. Kind of covered that, but do you have anything to kind of circle back around about Columbus?
No, it's just the museum was really great for cartoonists and stuff.
That place rocks. I need to go when I need to go to the Billy Ireland when it's not CXC, because I don't think they let you in the the reading room, and you can't request strips that week because they're so fucking busy.
Yeah.
So I need to make a trip up there, and because I know you can request to look at stuff, so I need to do that when there's not so much going on.
That's how I met my wife. Was she worked there, and she was in charge of doling out the strips. Like I'd go over there and be like, "Can I see some Harold Gray?" And then I'd sit there and read a bunch of Little Orphan Annie comics, and she was the one working there, so we had a little thing.
Oh.
So were you going to read the strips, or were you going to see her?
It became more about her after a bit. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Discord user Major Tom 95 asked, how does it feel to get a Christmas card from Klaus?
Klaus keeps coming up on this. This is funny.
Yeah, flex.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's because it's work that isn't published anywhere else, so it's kind of fun to see what he did that year,
Is it just like a single card, or does he send out like a zine or something like that?
He sends out just like a card. It's usually like he tries to sum up his entire year on a Christmas card. Mm-hmm. So it's usually pretty funny. Like I think last year was like his wife was like using Zoom all the time, but like he had nobody to talk to on Zoom because he didn't have any friends or something. So
the victim of success.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Jason Morrow asked, was it hard for Noah to find his own unique voice as a cartoonist?
I don't know if I have, to be honest. I don't know. I guess maybe. I mean, I came in through the Robert Crumb door, so it took a long time to kind of get away from that, though you can always tell like where a cartoonist entered comics from. So I don't know how unique my voice is, honestly.
That's a good answer. Maybe it's not. Discord user Jerry Groth asked, For all three
Jerry
of you,
Groth.
I don't know how does he pronounce that?
No, that's just it's a play on Gary Groth, I'm assuming.
Oh,
Okay,
I
yeah.
see. Okay.
yeah.
All right. For all three of you at this point in your experience, what are you really looking for when you open a comic by someone you've never read before? Is there anything you see on the page that generally gets you excited about comics these days? Oh, and also ask Noah if he's Team Seth, Chester, or Joe.
I guess I like Seth the most out of all those guys. I reread Joe Matt's stuff like every year. But my answer to that is that I just want like a good story. Like that's what I'm into. So like I like when I appreciate that, like just like good, like when it's not like a bunch of filler, like when it's just like a really solid story, and that gets kind of rare to see. So especially with graphic novels, because everybody's just trying to fill out page count.
Right.
But
yeah.
you know,
Are you looking for a good story from a writing standpoint, a drawing standpoint, or both?
both. I mean, art, I can deal with bad art if the story is really good, if it's like interesting.
Same, yeah.
But yeah, those are the things that I want to keep too. Like when the time comes when I'm like trying to go through my collection and make some room for new stuff, the stuff that I keep is always the books that have like a really interesting story.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of the same way. You know, I could deal with bad art as long as the story is good from a writing aspect, and you know, vice versa as well. You know, there's some books that are just great to look at but read like shit.
Yeah. Well, Marina Harkness is a good example of like really good. Like she doesn't waste any space, you know, and she always has something that she wants to say, and she has a lot to say about it. So she's a really solid cartoonist.
Yeah, we've said it on here before. We think, you know, we're really close with MS, so like we come off as biased all the time. But I really do think that people will be talking about MS's work in 20 years.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Amazing draftsman and great writer. So
yeah. And she's not going anywhere. She's a
No,
cartoonist.
she's in it.
Yeah, she's
like she's organizing this like retreat for us, like to go rent a cabin, and she's like, it's going to be work camp, and I'm kind of like, can we just chill?
yeah. I'm doing some research for my weed book. So.
My new book is called Hanging with the Fellas.
For me, I mean, I've always been more of a visual guy, to be honest. And I don't really know why that is. But nowadays, when I'm trying to pick up a new book, the art is usually the first thing that I'm going to notice. And then from there, I'll find out if the story's worth my time or not. But even if the story's not good, I can still enjoy the art. That's always been my perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I wasn't asked this, but I'm also Team Seth.
Yeah.
So out of the three of the Canadians, I'm Team Seth.
Yeah, I'm a huge Seth Rogen fan.
Yeah. I do reread Joe Matt more often than all of them, though.
Yeah.
I hope Joe Matt puts out something new. I feel like every couple of years he'll post like a stack of Bristol board, and you're like, oh shit, new Joe Matt coming. And then 5 years pass, and then it's, you know, just...
Yeah, I know. What's that
whatever.
about, man? It's like it's like maybe he just gives up too easy or something.
I don't know what it is, and I just, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know how much of that stuff is true, but maybe he just has enough money to where he doesn't have to draw anymore, you know, from hoarding. I don't know. It is strange, though. I ended up buying that big-ass Drawn and Quarterly book just because it was like 16 unpublished Joe Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Pages.
That was good, too, man. That was really funny.
Yeah, that was like the main reason why I bought that thing, so... Yeah. So, yeah, I guess Joe is, you know, close first. I remember, I don't know, you probably won't remember this, but I met you, Noah, at CXC in 2016 or 17, and you were drawing in my book, and we were talking about Chester Brown posting his dick pic on Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Did you see that? Were you on his Patreon?
No, you actually graphically described what it looked like, and yeah.
It was awful, man. That was horrible. Yeah. How did he get away with doing that?
Yeah, I truly don't know, especially because, you know, quote unquote, like, you know, sensitive PC culture was, you know, running rampant at that time. Yeah. So for him to just post hog on Patreon and charge for it, that's wild.
I mean, from my perspective, it's no different from an OnlyFans account.
OnlyFans,
you know?
Yeah, I was about to backtrack on that. So yeah, Chester, starting an OnlyFans.
Oh my god.
Post your big opinions on OnlyFans.
Yes. All right. Eddie from Stranger Fanzine asked, how did you end up doing that Grateful Dead bio comic? It feels like the only inspired choice Z2 has ever made on one of their books. And also ask Noah what his favorite manga is.
God, my favorite manga. I don't know, like the Tatsumi books that Drawn Quarterly put out.
Yeah, those are bangers.
Yeah, I return to those all the time. Drifting Life. I've reread that book 4 times. I love that book. The Z2 thing was interesting, man, because I think he's right about it. Like, they asked me if I wanted to do that book, and I was like, oh, that'd be a really interesting challenge. Like, I really got into it. But I think I found out later when it was published that it wasn't, that it was like a product to them, and they didn't give a shit. Like, I was like, ready. I was like, this is like I'm going to put my art into this and stuff. And I realized that they didn't even care about that. Like, I don't think they even wanted that. So it just kind of came and went really quickly. And it was kind of depressing, man. Honestly, I just didn't understand what it was I was involved in. And me and the writer felt the same way. We were just like, what? So,
well, and I'll say this, like, I really thought this was going to, no offense, I just thought this was going to be like a huge breakout book for you. Because, I mean, it's the fucking Grateful Dead. It seems like a layup, right?
Well, it could have been. It's just that publisher just like, that's what they do is they crank out music biographies. And they don't, it's not like they're putting any kind of marketing effort into it. They just are putting out music biographies and selling it to the fans. So it would have been better if I had done a Grateful Dead book for like Abrams or Fantagraphics or something. They would have, they would have actually treated it like something that, I don't know, something that we actually put our heart into. So that was a depressing experience.
Damn. Hate to hear that. Well, it was a good book, in my opinion. So
thanks.
Hats off to you all for getting through it. Next question comes from previous guest and friend of the show, Audra Stang. Noah, I've always enjoyed your specificity when drawing places you're familiar with. What elements of your new home in South Carolina do you most enjoy drawing or feel most compelled to draw?
I don't know. Have I drawn that much of it? I don't think I mean, there's nothing really that I have drawn. I can't remember. I guess in Boring I drew South Carolina, but just my neighborhood. So I don't know. I just haven't really gotten into it yet. But I do want to say that I'm a fan of her work. Audra's great. I really like her comics a lot.
Totally. Love their books.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Beef Jams Mark, asked, for Noah, are comics fucked or what?
Not alternative comics. Alternative comics can be just fine. Mainstream comics, they're fucked.
Yeah. I think the direct-to-market stuff is pretty much digging its own grave at this point.
It's like circling the toilet bowl. That's what it feels like.
Yep.
Well, DC just got sold to fucking Discovery yesterday or something. Yeah, like all Warner Brothers and HBO got offloaded from AT&T to Discovery. So
wow,
another jump there.
It's crazy, man. I just feel like artists in the mainstream are just like losing their minds too. Like everybody's going crazy because they don't know what's going on.
Super weird times. The main distributors going belly up. Hopefully,
what's going to happen to all these letterers?
Yeah,
damn, because they're certainly not going to be making comics after this.
Yeah. I mean, like we do books for bookstores, alternative cartoonists at this point, like because the comic shops treated us like shit. So we left there.
Right.
We just do stuff for bookstores. And like if I have any comics I want to self-publish, I'll do that. And I'll just tell the people who are following me about it. Like I'm going to survive no matter what. I don't know what's going on with the mainstream comics industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've set yourself up in this nice situation where you have garnered this large audience that you can, just directly market to. You don't even have to worry about anything else. It's pretty nice.
Well, I think that's honestly, people ask, how do you become a successful cartoonist? And I obviously don't have this shit figured out and I'm obviously not successful. But I think the key in my experience would be getting a small crowd of, couple 500 faithful readers that are willing to buy every project. And I feel like cartooning is a sustainable lifestyle at that point.
It is, definitely. I mean, I could, that's my...
I was going to say, it seems like maybe that's kind of how you are, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very fortunate that I have, a couple thousand people that will read my work, but then I have 500 who will buy it no matter what, and that, it's just like you said, like, you can live off of that. You can do it. So
yeah, and kind of going full circle with this conversation, even those that have maybe not garnered that audience the way you have yet, they still have new avenues being set up that allow them to sell their books or get published in a way that they otherwise wouldn't have had. So things are looking up for small press.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
We'll be fine,
I don't know if it's because I'm like too close to it, but it seems like it's really booming right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's in a really good place.
Yeah,
and folks, our Patreon is patreon.com/cutpoints.
Yeah, we just hit 600 a month, and we're I think one subscriber away from 100. So if you want to subscribe and get extra episodes, we even do a monthly zine. Patreon.com/gutterboys.
That's cool.
So Noah, now that we got our shit in, where can people find you online?
What is my YouTube is just, I think, Noah Van Sciver YouTube. I don't know what my
nice.
What the link is. And Patreon
if you Google
Patreon is just the same. It's just a Patreon /Noah Van Sciver.
Are you posting? I haven't checked out your Patreon. Are you posting pretty regularly there?
Yep.
Okay.
As regularly as I can. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice. You're on Instagram as well?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I think it's just Noah VS. Yeah, I don't know. And Facebook, but you don't need to be friends with me on Facebook.
Yeah. Alrighty.
I like that caveat. That's nice.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'm like, please don't add me on Facebook.
Yeah. No one's using
if you pretty much had like a window of opportunity to get there from like 2007 to 2016, now I'm not approving anybody.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way, honestly. Like, I have all these people that want to, I can't even tell, like, probably most of them are like porn or something. And I just don't even accept anybody anymore because, like, I don't know who they are. We have like 2 friends in common. I'm like, who is this person? So,
Totally.
Yeah, forget it.
All right. Well, Noah, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe we'll have you back for a bonus episode and get a little blue.
Yeah,
but
get a little blue.
In the meantime, go check out Noah's work if you haven't already. If you're listening to this, you probably have every book. What am I even saying? But thanks so much for listening.
So yeah, as always, stay gutter.